Hello and welcome to Sideways, where it's gloriously sunny and, dare I say it, warm out here today. We've come for a walk in a place where Nellie enjoys chasing the skylarks, even though she can't ever catch them. This week we're talking about how hard it can be to maintain your composure when someone holds a different opinion about something that's important to you. There's a mother who eats her children's ice cream and gets more than she bargained for. A snake is used as part of a heist to snag some CBD oil. We identify a number of universal languages that enable us to converse with people who are very different from us. And Martin fancies going on a singles holiday. And if that weren't enough, we have a right go at Charlie Chaplin. Dealing with other people's opinions.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all right. Sunny out, isn't it?
Cold, though.
Cold. You've had your morning walk, obviously. It's a bit bitter, is it?
Yeah, it's not. It's chilly in the wind.
Is it? Yeah.
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 But this time of year, the sun's got a little bit of strength in it, hasn't it? So if the sun is shining, it feels quite nice. I mean, you would know, because I don't suppose you've been outside this morning.
Of course not. It's way too early for that. But I will do later on, that's for sure.
I've just been listening to some Schubert.
Have you?
Yeah. Because I bought you a copy of this book, didn't I? Oh, you can't see it.
Yeah, a year of wonder. You did, yes.
And I was just listening to today's selection.
Oh, I haven't listened to today's. Is it a nice bit of Schubert?
I'm not particularly enjoying it, I've got to be honest.
No. Some of them are quite funereal, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. It's a bit of a downer. I was quite chipper before I put it on. Now I feel really depressed.
That's not how it's supposed to work, but
it's like I don't know if you felt like this, but I always find Charlie Chaplin films very depressing.
How he got away with attempting to be funny all those years, and not actually. We created a career out about dressing up a tramp and having his arse kicked. No, it doesn't do it for me. I must admit, Chaplin.
No, it's funny though, isn't it? Because I really like some films of that sort of era, but Laurel and Hardy, for example. Although perhaps he was a little bit earlier, was he? I don't know.
I think he was, but people around the like Buster Keaton or Harold Lloyd.
I'm not a massive fan of Buster Keaton either. Harold Lloyd, I'm all right with. Hooray for Harold Lloyd!
Great theme tune.
Yeah, it was. But no, Charlie Chaplin leaves me cold. So I'm sorry to those of you that upsets, but deal with it.
Well, it's all about opinions, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that's a nice segue on what I wanted to talk to you about, or us to talk to our listeners about, really. It's a discussion point.
Yeah, we don't get much back from them, though, do we?
No, not often, no. But I suspect, this comes up quite a lot in groups, because when you have to listen to the opinions of others about addiction that haven't walked in the shoes or haven't bothered to study or whatever, just sought an opinion from elsewhere or made up their own mind, but that it's a choice. And
right, so you're not talking about other opinions of people in group. You're talking about people who think they know about addiction but actually haven't got a clue.
Absolutely. Peter Hitchens, for example. I know I've slagged him off before, but awful man. But he gets quite angry about it. And what I wanted to look at here was really how not to get angry, really, or to how to deal with other people's opinions that don't tessellate with your own.
Right.
Because it can be quite tricky and it can be quite triggery. So it's useful to have a few pointers.
So by the end of this, you should be very calm around Peter Hitchens. I should be able to watch Charlie Chaplin with impunity.
With impunity and laugh. And other people find this funny, so it's probably good. Do you know what he was making? Like back in the 20s and 30s, making £1 million a film.
Was he?
He was hugely wealthy. Yeah, it's crazy money for, as I say, out of a very limited capability.
Listen, you're getting a bit riled up now.
I am.
Some people really like Charlie Chaplin. Perhaps you should respect their opinion.
I am respecting their opinion, which is what I'm going to go on to say, how you can deal with that, how you can respect other people's opinions without losing your rag as you nearly pushed me to do there. But before we start,
Yeah.
a couple of little pointers. The first one, I watched a little video of this actually, but there was a 4-year-old boy in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
He reported his mum to the police for eating his ice cream.
Well, that's fair enough.
It's fair enough.
I don't see any problem with that at all.
No. But he was only 4. He rang the police and they turned up and everything.
Did they arrest his mother?
Well, no.
Throw her into chokey.
I think the boy learned a salutary lesson. You can't just ring the police because your mum's eating your ice cream. You know, they're looking for more important matters to deal with, really.
But do we know what kind of ice cream it was?
It was vanilla, apparently. I mean, it's not nothing to get too aggy about, but...
Well, it's funny you say that, but I never used to be a fan of vanilla ice cream, but I think probably it would certainly make my top 5 now. I don't know if it would make my top 3, but certainly my top 5.
Well, that's your opinion. That is your opinion, and you're welcome to it.
And it was obviously this lad's opinion, and I'm right behind him. I'm 4 square behind him. I think it's a disgrace for parents to eat their children's ice cream and chocolates and so on.
Well, I think there's more to the story where there was an alternative that he could have had, but he just got a bit defensive about his vanilla and got on the blower.
Got on the blower to the police. Got the feds in.
He got the OB round. See what they had to say about it.
Very good. I like that. It's good.
Yeah, no, I quite like it. It was quite innocent, really, but out of the mouths of babes. There's another one which there was some shoplifters in Tennessee. And they used pythons to distract a cashier at a petrol station before making off with $400 worth of CBD oil. So they popped a python on the counter. I said, "What do you think about that?" And while the cashier was looking elsewhere, looking a bit scared, bosh, in they went. Loads of CBD oil.
I think that would probably take my attention. I think if someone put a python in front of me.
Yeah, I never used to take my python outside of my flat.
So you never slapped it on a counter to try and steal some CBD oil?
I didn't. If I'd have known,
you could have taken it down the offie and got yourself some free vodka back in the day, couldn't you?
Well, I know that now. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I certainly think I'd have ended up in chokey because I don't expect they'd have known that it was me and my python.
You could have put a disguise on, couldn't you?
I could have done.
You could have dressed up like Charlie Chaplin.
I'll put a little mask on the snake so they didn't recognise it.
You'd have had your arse kicked if you'd done that.
I would have done, and I wouldn't have earned £1 million, that's for sure. Even though it was on CCTV. I was on the film. Anyway, subject matter, dealing with other people's opinions before we get too far off topic.
Yeah, okay.
Have you ever thought about this?
Yeah, I think about it a lot, actually.
And I think, as yourself as a therapist, I'd imagine you sit there with people sometimes and they have widely wayward opinions to what really they should be doing. And you have to sort of marshal them back into some sort of line.
Well, it's more, I suppose, in the professional sense, it's more, it tends to turn up more in people's distress at the disconnect between their opinions and other people's. It can be, as I'm sure we're going to discuss, people can find it incredibly upsetting and triggering when people see things differently from the way that they do. And being able to kind of separate yourself from that can sometimes be very challenging.
Well, it can, and I think we can leave sort of religion and politics out of this because I think never the twain shall meet.
A good idea. Yeah.
Because that it's difficult, isn't it? If people have set opinions on that, will never change. But dealing with other people's opinions, it does require a bit of self-awareness and empathy and clear communication. I think that's quite straightforward. And I've got this sort of 4 points here I wanted to talk to you about.
You like to have a little checklist, don't you?
I do. It's sort of a way to navigate, not just through this podcast, but to navigate through how to deal with other people's opinions.
Right, okay.
It looks at perspectives and setting boundaries and focusing on what truly matters, really. And respecting other people's opinions even when you don't agree. But the 4-point plan, the first one was practice empathy and open-mindedness.
Yeah, I mean, that's... go on, sorry.
No, go on. If you was going to say something.
I was going to say that that's one of those statements that sounds very simple, but actually is the essence of what is so difficult.
Well, it is, and I'm breaking that down slightly because there's 4 points under that.
Is there sub points then?
There's
indeed.
sub points, yeah. But
so you fooled me and the listener when you said there's 4 points, because actually you've probably got a total of many more than 4 points.
Well, there's 4 points, but there's an explanation for each, really, a slight expansion of each point.
Right.
So under practicing empathy and open-mindedness, the first one is listen actively. Paying attention to what others are saying and trying to understand their perspectives. And we actually do a group where I work now on active listening, because it's not something that people can easily do.
It's people find it very, very difficult because
yeah.
And one of the things that gets in the way of active listening is that people are usually more determined to make their point than they are to listen to someone else's.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you see that a lot in couples work actually. If you've got a couple who are in conflict, they tend to be more interested in making sure the other half of the couple hears their opinion than they are in listening to their partner, which is kind of the foundation of the problem in the first place.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially with couples. The next sub-point was asking questions. Instead of immediately judging, ask some clarifying questions to better understand their point of view. So to talk around their opinion a little bit and get a bit of an understanding of it.
So can I role play this with you?
Go on then.
I might say to you, so Martin, what is it you enjoy about the work of Charlie Chaplin?
I say, well, I'm not a big fan, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you were, you might say, well, I don't know what you'd say. What would you say?
I'd say, well, I love the way he walks along the street with that shuffle, spinning his cane.
Oh, yeah. I particularly enjoy the way he gets kicked up the arse sometimes and paid $1 million.
A lot. And then he'll kick the perpetrator back up his arse as well, and so on and so forth. And it's funny every time.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be an example of asking questions rather than immediately saying, I don't like rubbish. Charlie Chaplin, he's a load of shit.
Exactly. Good point.
Perfect.
I don't know how Chaplin's crept into this one quite significantly into this episode.
I don't even know how he came up in the first place.
Nor do I really. It came from our opening gambit, really, didn't it?
Yeah.
But being curious, approaching different opinions with curiosity rather than defensiveness, because a lot of people, when you go into a discussion, it can come from a point of defensiveness, can't it, rather than being open-minded about it.
Okay, so tell me this. You started this morning by saying it comes up a lot in groups because it's understandably offensive, perhaps, to people in recovery when others say, "Oh, why don't you just stop drinking? If you don't want to drink, just stop it." Right. So I'm wondering if, in situations like that, when someone does express a very narrow-minded opinion, it feels as if it would be even harder to explore that opinion with them when you feel as if you're being personally attacked.
Yeah, you do. The way we normally talk around that is that we say, look, should we expect other people to understand it? What is their background in where they've gleaned their knowledge from? Are they just being angry because of your condition? Are they reacting on that basis? Have they put any work in to understand it themselves? Have they gone to Al-Anon, or have they done anything to do that? But generally speaking, we come to the opinion that we can't expect other people to understand it, and therefore we should be quite relaxed about it. And their opinion is their opinion, but it shouldn't affect the way we behave.
Nice. All right. Thank you for clarifying.
No problem at all. Felt like I was back in groups then for a minute. Consider different contexts. This is another sub-point as well. Recognise that people's backgrounds and experiences shape their opinions. So again, going back to what we're talking about, people understanding addiction. They may know people that have drank quite heavily and have just given up. And they'll use that as a reference point where they haven't got to the point of desperation, or that the person hasn't got to their drinking or drug taking hasn't got to the point where it is totally overwhelming everything in their life.
Yeah, or the opposite. They might have had experience of addiction in their family that they found particularly distressing, and sometimes that can have an odd impact on people. You'd think that if you'd experienced that in your family, you'd be more open-minded to it, but I don't think people always are. Sometimes when you've experienced something and then it comes up again in your own life, you can have a sort of a very seemingly contrary response to it, almost like an emotional denial.
Yeah, no, I agree. But people get fed up with it as well if they've had it around them all their lives.
Exactly.
Another person comes into their life, they're one of their children, for example.
Exactly. It's like, for God's sake, just bloody sort this out, will you?
Yeah. And they can get exasperated. It is an exasperating condition. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It can stretch people's credulity, I'd say.
Yes. Nice.
The second point was communicating respectively and clearly. So this is point number 2, under which we have some sub-points.
I'm glad you clarified that for me.
So we know where we're going. The first point is, I think it's quite an important one, is choose your battles. Not every opinion needs a response. So just focus on what truly matters to you, because you can get embroiled in arguments with other people about their opinions, which, to be honest, it has no effect on you, and there's no real reason to get, unless you just fancy an argument, fancy a bit of a verbal bundle. Yeah,
and social media is the perfect hunting ground for that.
Isn't it just, yeah.
I mean, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but that used to be the perfect place for that. You'd read something on there that would wind you up. It would press a button in you, and you'd find yourself responding to some complete stranger that you know nothing about. I mean, what's the point of that?
Well, again, with social media, it can't really respect context and background, can it, or baggage that people are carrying? So,
but it relates directly to the point that you're making, which is, if you're choosing your battles, then surely the battles that you choose should be related to some sort of relational dynamic that has an impact on your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it doesn't make any difference to me what someone thinks who I don't have any other contact with, or I don't know, or isn't in any other way involved in my life. I mean, in a sense, it relates back to the point you were making about, for the purpose of this discussion, avoiding politics and religion. When someone has a political perspective or a religious belief, but they don't operate in your universe, why does it matter to you?
Absolutely none.
Let it go. Right. It's really not important, is it?
No, it isn't, and I think that's why it's when you get strong, sort of opinionated, like atheists, for example, they can just become embroiled in just needless communication with people, and it can become aggressive, and you're never going to change people's opinions. So let it be. Everyone's entitled to their own, and regardless of whether you consider it real or true, or whether there's any value to it, it's not down to you. It's a bit like Charlie Chaplin, really. Again,
very much like Charlie Chaplin.
Other people love him. It doesn't hurt me that they love him. They can get on with it. The fact that I'm not a big fan, I shouldn't get embroiled in conversation with people about it.
I'm thinking of an exception to this now. As I'm saying this, I'm thinking that actually, and I'm not. I think the exception here is when someone holds a belief that is dangerous or damaging or destructive to the fabric of society. I'm thinking of homophobia, sexism, and I think probably perhaps the motivation is different. It's not so much that you have an expectation that you might be able to change someone's opinion by pointing out something to them.
Yeah.
But it feels necessary to challenge it. Do you know?
And I agree. Yeah, but you've chosen your battle, haven't you? And you feel
that's true. Yeah,
if it's something you feel strongly about, but choosing your battles on the basis of what is good for society, I think that's still, as long as the communication is good on both sides, then that's fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's about the respectful nature of communication, isn't it?
Yeah, it is,
because sometimes when something really infuriates you, it's very difficult to hold that line. But of course, as soon as you fail to hold that line, you've kind of lost it a little bit.
You have. That leads nicely on to this next sub-point, which is about expressing yourself clearly, which is talking about articulating your own thoughts and feelings calmly and respectfully.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Charlie Chaplin.
And don't go.
Right.
Yeah, you can't go stridently into the Chaplin argument and start slagging off his attire. You've got to look at the context of it all.
You can't dismiss the entire canon of Charlie Chaplin's work.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Which again leads on to the next point about focusing on the issue, not the person. When you're disagreeing, when disagreeing, address the idea or argument, not the person expressing it.
Yeah.
So because
I mean that is a very difficult one, isn't it? Because it's almost, particularly when something is very incendiary and it really evokes strong emotion in us, it's very difficult to separate what someone is saying from making a judgment about who they are. And it goes wider than that, doesn't it? So I don't know what it's like if someone's expressing a very bigoted view about addiction, but it must be easy then to think that they're just generally a bigot.
Yes, you form an opinion. If they have one bad opinion, then all their opinions are wrong. So you have to pick that one out, really. Yeah, it's
the way that you and I feel about someone who doesn't like football but does like motor racing.
Which is their choice, isn't it?
It is, but we, if we're honest, we form an opinion about people.
Yeah, we do.
Actually, probably one leads to the other, doesn't it? If someone says to you, "I don't really like football," we usually think, "Oh, you probably might like motor racing, then, don't you?"
Yeah.
Which is an assumption that is probably sometimes inaccurate and is an example of something that would bear investigation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. There probably is something quite good about motorsports. I haven't found it yet, but
no,
I'm sure
it's boring, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm sure that people just love it and don't like football.
Yeah.
But if you find people that you come across people and you strike up a conversation and you say, what team do you support? And they say, I don't like football. I immediately turn my back and walk away. I'll have nothing to do with them.
I thought you were going to say, you immediately say, so did you watch the Grand Prix on Sunday?
I was being a bit contrary there, but but it's one of the things. In fact, I was talking to someone last night about this very point,
right?
Because it's an international language, football, isn't it? And so you can go anywhere in the world. You find someone that likes football, you can talk to them, and it's a way of striking up a conversation. And it's probably true in other areas, like motorsport, perhaps.
Food.
Food. I mean, I'm sure that you love a food discussion when you come across another foodie.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Music is another one.
Music's another good one.
There are sort of universal.
There is.
I wouldn't necessarily, with abandon, throw immediately into a conversation, what's your favourite flour? Because
and you're talking the ingredients.
I'm talking the bread and baking.
Yeah. Quite. Yeah.
The wheat-based products.
Yes.
Although, of course, not all flour comes from wheat. Rice flour, coconut flour, for example.
Okay. Yeah. You're boring me now. I'm going to turn my back on you like someone that doesn't like football.
Well, you should ask some questions and show a bit of interest rather than immediately jumping to a conclusion about me. Considering, you've immediately labelled me a flour bore.
Yeah, but you also like football, so you see, I've got to contextualise it, haven't I? We do have to find common ground, but it is fun. But music is quite, because opinion is so strongly divided on music, and we know it's subjective. It's very easy to slag bands off and then find other people really love them and they're really popular.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when it comes to music, I might be wrong about this, but my feeling is, unlike religion and politics and football, people tend to be, you might express a dislike for a band or an artist that someone, but it doesn't seem to be quite so
vitriolic.
Yeah. When you tell me you like Boston, actually, you're quite vitriolic about American rock, aren't you? The other day, I found myself enjoying a new song by Snow Patrol. I felt a little bit sick in my mouth.
Well, I was going to come on to that because I think if taking our own advice here and talking around the situation, asking it and contextualising, asking other people's opinions, if someone says to you, "No, I really like you too," my immediate response is, "Oh my God, what's all that about?"
Well, my immediate response is, "You obviously also like Charlie Chaplin."
But if they say, "Oh, there's a couple of good tracks on Rattle and Hum you should listen to," and I'll listen to them and think, actually, it's all right. Yeah, there's probably something in there. So you can't just write off all bands just because you don't like the name.
I'm not taking any advice to listen to any U2 from anybody, I'm sorry. I'm drawing the line at that.
I was stretching the credulity of that point somewhat. I agree.
Although their early albums were good.
Yeah, they were. I thought, well,
I haven't been able to tolerate them ever since they forced a download onto Apple Music of one of their albums. That was an absolute disgrace. I mean, it's like junk mail through your door, isn't it?
it was, but there was a couple of good tracks on that.
I refuse to listen to it. I don't care what it is. Don't force feed me music. I'm not having that.
There was one track, something about it was one about Joey Ramone, and it was fabulous. It was a very good.
You
track.
only liked it because you like the Ramones.
Well,
so
no,
you like that by association.
I listened to the whole album. And there was a couple of good tracks.
But that must have been a very slow weekend, is all I can say.
Yeah, I think it was stuck on that particular album. I couldn't get it off. You've taken me completely away from my thought process now. Getting into music, I had some other points to make on that, but I'm going to get back to. Well, it leads on nicely under this sub point. It was acknowledging shared values. So find common ground and focus on areas of agreement to facilitate constructive conversations. We just perfectly illustrated that.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, that takes quite a lot, doesn't it? To sort of. Take a deep breath and sort of think, okay, I can see a lot of things here that I disagree with this person on, but I need to, perhaps there is somewhere that we can.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about this a few weeks ago, because you're quite good at this, aren't you? You're quite good at talking to someone and finding a space in which you can connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't be bothered.
You can't be bothered now. No, why should you?
No.
No, I find that the most interesting part of meeting someone new.
Yeah,
I was talking to my youngest daughter Lizzie yesterday, and I was saying I quite fancy going on one of those solo coach trips, right? Where you meet a load of new people.
Yeah, saga holiday, you mean?
Something like that. I said it'd be really fun just to meet a load of new people, but I suspect that would be your worst nightmare.
Oh my God, my God, that would just going on a solo trip where everyone's expecting.
Yeah.
To chat with other people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't like that, would you?
No, that would be horrendous. I mean, solo travelling, fine. Very happy with that. Not a problem. But don't put me on a coach with people who want to talk to me. Oh my God.
No, I'd like that, unless I got stuck next to someone on, sitting just in the two seats, and you sat next to someone that you really don't get on with.
That'd be brilliant if you were on a sort of three-seater, and on the one side you've got somebody who really likes motor racing, and the other side you've got a Charlie Chaplin fan.
I'd be stuck in the middle with you, wouldn't I?
Who was that? Steelers Wheel?
Steelers Wheel. I'd have to introduce music into the equation and find some common ground with these guys.
Yeah, and then you've got... you might get the response that you very occasionally get from someone, but it's quite rare, isn't it, where someone says, I don't really like music. I've
only ever come across one person that says I'm not into it, and it's very rare.
Yeah. I think it's probably a mental illness, but I'll check the DSM later on and see.
There's something going on if you don't like music.
Yeah. Anyway, let's carry on, because you're getting off the topic now. I don't know why.
Yeah, and this is going to go on forever, this one, if we're not careful, because we're on to point 3, which is quite a short point, I think. Managing your reactions and emotions.
Right, so not throwing your hands up in the air and swearing.
Yeah, acknowledge when you're feeling hurt and angry or defensive, trying to understand the root of the emotions, but it leads on to sort of taking a step back. So if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, feeling a bit angry or defensive, take a break perhaps and process your emotions before responding, which is quite tricky.
Count to 10.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of a conversation, it can be a bit off-putting for the other person if you're taking a long break, but I think you can formulate a reasonable response quite quickly. But taking time out it may just call a halt to the conversation and come back when you're ready to
that's a difficult skill. I mean, it's good. It's good advice, but it's a difficult skill to sort of to say, right, I'm feeling emotional about this now, and I know that's not a kind of good space from which to continue this conversation, so I'm going to take a time out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a very sensible strategy, but that's quite hard. I mean, I find that quite difficult. If something's really wound me up, I find it quite difficult to let go of it.
Yeah, I change the subject at that point. So I take a break by perhaps just moving the subject into a different area, and perhaps you can formulate ideas and then come back. But it is quite tricky. But I think it's being kind to yourself. Remember that it's okay to disagree, isn't it? Or feel differently from others. So a bit of self-compassion at that point. Don't be down on yourself just because your opinion doesn't tessellate with others.
That's the second time you've used the word
Oh no,
tessellate.
I was trying to think of another word at that point because I did.
Chime.
Chime. That's a perfectly acceptable alternative.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to think.
Correlate.
Correlate. I could have. I could have taken time out just to think about it. But I didn't. It's the nerves around recording these episodes.
You can't still be nervous.
No, not at all. But I thought I'd throw that into the equation. Well, the last point was about, and I'm not quite sure about this. I value your opinion.
Oh, wow, that's a rarity.
About seeking positive support and surround yourself with people who value you. Now, I understand that, but I was reading between the lines as almost like surrounding yourself with yes men or people that actually just agree with you, which obviously is
I
not
don't
great.
think. Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I thought that's what you were going to say, but I think that is different. That's if you're upset because someone's holding a different opinion from you and it's affected you, you don't want to just retreat into an echo chamber of your own thoughts.
Absolutely,
that's quite dangerous.
Yeah,
but I think what that's saying is, being around people who value you enables you to separate perhaps the hurt and upset you've experienced from whatever has taken place.
Yeah,
from it becoming all encompassing. Because you're remembering you're valued, you're worth something, people love you, people care about you, which kind of enables you to contextualize any difficulty that you've had from a conflict, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we have to do conflict resolutions at work sometimes, and it can be quite tricky, but it does, when the lines of communication are open, things can get resolved. I think one of the difficult things with conflict is, and I expect you see this a lot in people who are in recovery from addiction, most people haven't really learned positive things about conflict. So they tend to be quite conflict averse, or they don't really know how to deal with conflict. Whereas, through conflict resolution, you're part of what you're learning is that conflict can be quite good. It can give you an opportunity to clear the air, and it also, as long as it's resolved well and effectively and healthily, then there's nothing wrong with it. No, absolutely not. But it's also leads on to sort of, I don't know, constructive criticism. Do you find that difficult to take on board?
Not anymore. Well, actually, let me qualify that. I used to really struggle with it, but I think I used to struggle with it earlier in my life because I felt it was a confirmation of what I already feared about myself, that I wasn't
right.
Enough,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much what someone else was saying; it was more about the lens through which I was looking at it. But I've got better at that, thankfully. But I think the other thing that makes a difference is the person who's offering it to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I need to feel some level of respect from someone who's offering it.
Absolutely.
Which I think that's probably quite reasonable. I think most of us would feel like that. So, for instance, when I'm studying, as I am at the moment, I want constructive criticism. What I don't want is someone to tell me, "Oh, that's good, that's fine." No, tell me what can I learn, what can I build on? Yeah. And I think, I don't know what you think, but I feel like a willingness to, a desire for that does show some sort of personal growth.
Absolutely, it does, and I think perhaps as you get older, you're less likely to be to react negatively to criticism. I think you can rationalise it a bit more, and I think it is as long as the criticism doesn't define you, or it's going back to your point. When people are telling you stuff that feeds into your already damaged narrative about yourself. That can be quite difficult, but the other person probably doesn't know how it's landing. But as you get older, I think you learn not only to accept criticism, but if you are criticising other people, you've learned to phrase it properly so it lands in the right manner.
Well, I think that's the difference between criticism and constructive criticism.
Yes,
it's not very helpful to say to someone, "I think that's a load of shit."
No.
Whatever age you are, however robust they are, however, whatever it is, it's much better to say, right, okay, I can give you some ideas about ways in which I might have done that differently, or if you want some thoughts about how you might be able to improve it. I think that's different. So I think whatever the situation, just telling someone something's no good isn't very helpful, is it?
No, it isn't. No, you wouldn't rush into a Charlie Chaplin convention and start wading into people saying,
no, saying he's a load of old rubbish, would you?
Yeah, no, you wouldn't, because you know how that's going to land.
Exactly.
So you learn how to sort of temper your approach somewhat.
Yeah. Although not much can be done now with Charlie Chaplin's body of work. I don't know what constructive criticism I could offer that would be of any use.
No, I suppose you could bring AI into the equation and
try and make it funny.
Try and make it funny. Yeah, you could. Yeah, using AI, you could get some funny lines put in there for them, some witty jokes. That obviously a lot of them were silent.
Difficult to put funny lines in a silent movie, though, isn't it?
It is, but you could put them in. It might uplift it somewhat.
I think I used to find the piano, quite annoying and a bit. It's a bit maudlin, isn't it? A bit morose, I found.
It
a bit depressing. It is. That's where we started with this, wasn't it? I was saying that I found Charlie Chaplin depressing.
Yeah, I think it probably was.
I was relating him to Schubert, I think.
You were in many ways. They come from cut from the same cloth, perhaps, but
they're probably related. They probably go back far enough.
Yeah, Chaplin is a derivation of Chopin. No, look, what's Chopin? Do you say
Chopin?
Schubert. They're all in there.
Yeah.
So really, that's it has come to the end. But just winding this up is something which we can all learn from. Really, is focusing on what you can control. I know this is a bit of a mantra in the recovery community, but remember that you can't control other people's opinions, but you can control your response to them.
Yeah. Well, I think that should, if that's a mantra in the recovery community, it ought to be a mantra generally.
Yeah, I think it should. But I think it's perhaps a nice way to complete this, or to put this part of the episode. Really, my notes have ended. So
good. Well, I'm saying nothing else on the matter.
Don't need to.
As far as I'm concerned, the matter's closed.
It's rounded enough. Exactly. Yes. Which brings us on. Really, I'm assuming you're ready to do the conundrum feature.
Yeah. Right. Here's one for you. Okay. This is this week's. I remembered it, and then I've forgotten what I was going to ask you. Oh yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to use this one. I don't think I've suggested this one. I've asked you this one before. So you're invited to a stag or a hen do, right? And it's one of those ones like they are these days, where it's overseas for the weekend. So it's pricey. It's a pricey weekend away. Is it reasonable, do you think? To weigh up the cost of a trip like that with the inherent value you see in that relationship? So to say, my friendship with that person is not really worth £500. How do you feel about
that? No, I think that's perfectly okay. It's difficult to put a fiscal value against a friendship, that's for sure.
But what I mean is, you sometimes get a feeling, don't you? You think, oh well, hang on, that's quite a commitment.
That's too much.
Me.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I'd say no anyway to a stag do, but
well, I know you would, but let's imagine it wasn't a stag. Imagine it was a dry stag do.
A dry stag do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, those sorts of things must exist now, mustn't they? Surely.
Of course, they must do. But I think that if you can't afford it, then you can't afford it, can you? That's fair enough. But if you can,
I'm thinking more about when you're kind of faced with it, and something in you, there's a kind of instinct in you that says, I don't really want to do that. If it was an evening out in town, I'd be happy to go, but I don't really want to do that. And there's some kind of something in you that, it feels as if it's related to the way you see that relationship. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do suppose you perhaps you go the extra yard depending upon the depth of the relationship. But I've known people that have not gone to weddings because they're abroad, and it's either too expensive, which I think was your original point, but you moved the point on to the value of the relationship.
Well, it's a kind of it can be a combination of the two, I think, is my point. Okay. I mean, it's perfectly legitimate, isn't it? If you think, well, I can't afford that, fair enough. But I think sometimes there's a combination of, I could afford it, but do I really want to? Do I actually want to do that? It's the kind of question, it's the balance between, do I want to do this, and do I feel as if I ought to do this because of the relationship I have with that person?
Mm. Yeah, no, right. No, I think it's a different thought process as if you can afford it and just don't want to spend the money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you can say it's directly related to how you feel about that person.
Yeah.
Or perhaps
I wonder how you get out of it then. What would you say?
Busy.
I'm watching Charlie Chaplin.
I'm at a Charlie Chaplin convention and it clashes. Sorry, mate. Stags out. I know that would be a lie if I use that excuse, but it's something of similar ilk. But no, it is a conundrum, and I know people that have put themselves in debt.
Really?
Yes, I do. They've
Put themselves in debt so they can go to a broad wedding or
to a wedding. Yeah,
bloody hell's teeth.
But they felt that it was the right thing to do, and they valued that enough. But I don't. Wow. I mean, if you were invited out to go abroad for a few days, you probably wouldn't fancy it just because it's abroad for a few days anyway. Regardless,
that'd be easy for me. I'd just say, "Oh, sorry, I can't come because the dogs."
Yeah. You were quite, yeah.
That's so I've got an easy get out. Anyway, I mean, you and I, we've reached a point in life now where we're more likely to be going to a funeral.
Exactly, yeah.
And they tend to be cheaper and more local.
They're on home soil, generally speaking, aren't they?
In home soil, in fact.
Under home soil. So, yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. All their friends are married and most of them divorced, but...
Yeah, we're just waiting from, see who's next to die.
Well, you are, and that's the point we're on our lives. But it's your own children getting married, I suppose, and that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah. Well, I'll go to that one.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
You'd go on a stag. Would you go on Tom's stag do if it was in
It's funny enough, this came up the other day, and I can't remember why it came up, but I can't even remember who I was talking to about it. But I don't know if he'd invite me on his stag do. I mean, I don't really drink, do I? I probably wouldn't, but I'm not really ideal stag do material, am I?
No, that's what frightens me about it. I wouldn't want to go to stag do because it would be very triggery. But I'd feel I've got to put out all those drunken people for all that time.
Yeah.
Just going to I went to watch a band last night, and there's towards the end of the night, there's 2 or 3 drunken people there, and I thought I don't like being around these people. So being stuck with a whole group of people like that for several days.
I think probably what I'd do. If it was abroad, that would be a no-no as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But if it were more local, I'd probably show my face.
Yeah,
what I do.
Yeah.
And I'd let the evening's proceedings continue without me.
We rush off home to a good book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean which is fair enough, isn't it? I mean, I don't think
more than fair.
I don't remember. Did your dad go to your stag do? I don't remember him being at your stag do. He wasn't at Russ's.
No, he wasn't a big drinker himself. So
my dad wasn't at mine. I mean, my dad didn't come to my wedding because he wasn't well. But but then and then he had the temerity to die the following year. Well, still, at least he died the following year rather than the year of my wedding.
Yeah, quite. At least he had the chance to snub you.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, good.
We're going to go on to our gratitude list then, shall we?
Yeah, go on then. You can go first this week.
You want me to go first? Sort of double-barreled, really, this one. But I was grateful for taking some time off work this week. To spend some time with my youngest daughter, Lizzie, and her partner, Jake, and my grandson, Isaac.
Lovely.
And even though it was a bit of a working holiday, so I was doing some decorating and stuff when I was down there. It's just lovely spending a few days with those guys. And
nice.
And leading on from that, Jake very kindly, he gave me 2 books. He gifted me 2 books, which I was quite taken aback with, really. I thought this was a very nice touch.
What were they? We need to know what they were now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the first one was the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. The background to this is I'd been speaking to him about. He teaches like RE and philosophy and all this sort of stuff, so he knows his stuff. And we're talking about the Stoics, and we talked about Marcus Aurelius then. So he's very kindly got my book, Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, which is a very good read. Not that I've started it yet; I've flicked that one. But the second one he got me is the Daily Stoic. So it's 366 meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. So
nice.
It's a daily reading on which they look at Seneca and Epictetus and again Marcus Aurelius, and then they do a translation of it because some of the old words are quite difficult to understand, especially Marcus Aurelius, who was around, I think it was about 120 AD, so it's a long time ago, and so it's
He was ahead of his time.
he was ahead of it. He was head of the Roman Empire, wasn't he, for a couple of decades? So he's quite a thoroughly good chap, and he was a big fan of Plato and that sort of thing. So he studied the philosophy himself, and then came out with his own sort of works.
I read Meditations as a set text for a book club earlier this year. No, was it last year? Where are we now? March. It was last year.
Yeah.
So, and it was good. It was a very interesting. It's an interesting read. Yeah.
It is, and this, because this is a daily one, a bit like the Year of Wonder, the music one. So I've got one to go alongside that now.
Here we are.
Today is one on the sacred part of you, and I won't go into it, but it's again is something.
Have you got a sacred part of you?
Well, you can find it, and that's what it's all about. And if you don't acknowledge it already, yeah.
I was just questioning whether you had one.
Oh yeah, definitely, it's there. It's there. It's acknowledging and honing it properly.
Nice. Okay.
So
I hope you enjoy Meditations. I'll be interested to hear what you think about it when you've finished it.
Well, yes. I suspect it's going to be one that I go back to quite a lot. Both of those books. I think there's some good stuff in there, which again I can introduce into groups and stuff.
Nice.
So I was very grateful.
Lovely. Sounds like a splendid week.
Yes.
Excellent. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for the discovery of new art. I don't mean paintings. I mean broadly sort of music, books, TV. I was thinking this week, a couple of things happened. One, I started watching. Have you ever watched Big Boys on Channel 4?
No. Good.
Right. It's fantastic,
and
it's one of those. It's one of those series that it was in my peripheral vision, but I'd never watched it. I thought, I'll have a look at this. And it's so good. And it's really lovely when you discover something like that, because, as I think we've discussed before, there's so much choice that it's quite difficult to cut through it. So when you do discover something, you think, this is really enjoyable. That's great. And the same thing with music. When you discover something or a band or something, you think, I've never heard of it. It's the upside, I suppose. There are a lot of downsides to social media and Spotify and stuff. But sometimes, you're reminded of what's quite useful about having access to, a wider range of music than we did when we were growing up. Because the only way you get it would be going to the long player and ask them to put this disc on for you so you could have a listen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I thought, we're often complaining about what it's like to live in the modern world, but there are some things that are quite, that we should probably be quite grateful for.
Yeah.
So anyway, I very highly recommend Big Boys. It's excellent.
Well, that's your opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you disagree with it, I expect you to question me with...
I will. I'll watch it.
Respect.
Well, no, I do respect your opinion, because we tend to like the same stuff. So if you say it's good, it probably is.
I think you'll definitely like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will. I would say that with some level of confidence.
What's it called? Big Boy. I'm going to jot it down, because my memory's not great.
Yeah, it's called Big Boys.
On Channel 4. Okay, there it's written down. There's a bit of a change at this point.
Oh, wow.
Rather than the best-selling singles, I'm going best-selling albums. Instead of FA Cup winners, I'm going to First Division winners or the top flight winners.
All right, okay.
Only because I can
go with that.
I'd run out of the others.
No, that's fine. You don't need to justify it.
I'm not.
Just get on with it.
I felt like I needed to but it's always nice to have a little bit of a change. So I've got to the best-selling albums, right? And again, I can give you the artists if you like, and then you can work.
Yeah, you probably have to give me the artist, but
yeah.
Let's see.
It's 1970, 80, and 90. Okay.
Wow, 1970.
Okay. Well, do you want? I mean, you can have a crack at the artist if you like.
I'm not going to get 90. Well, I suppose it might have been. Let It Be.
It's not. I've got a feeling you might have had this album on your wall at one time in one of those.
Oh, okay.
You might not have it. I might be wrong. But Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge.
Oh yes, Sound of Silence.
No, well, it's Bridge Over
Troubled Water.
Bridge Over Troubled Water. Yeah. Was that on your wall? Was that on your wall? I think
Sound of Silence is on my wall.
Oh right,
I'm not sure. I'll have to go and check, but it's not on there anymore.
Is it not? No, you have to change.
I think it's still in the frame, but I had to take it down because it wasn't. As you'll remember, they weren't quite square, were they?
They weren't square. No, it used to irritate me immensely, but I let it go.
Well, it irritated me in the end, so that shows you how unsquare they were.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a very unsquare.
Yeah.
So that's 1970 put to bed. 1980.
1980.
Pretty much a super group, really. Not super group, because like putting lots of different musicians together, but they're a very, very well-known group.
Right. Can you give me other clues without telling me the name of the band?
Well, I can do.
That sounds like it's going to be too easy if you give me another clue.
There was 2 guys and 2 girls in the band.
Oh, ABBA.
ABBA, yeah.
ABBA, 1980, really?
1980, yeah.
Was that ABBA Arrival then?
No.
No? ABBA, I don't know, Thank You for the Music?
No. Can you remember? I don't remember the name of it there.
Voulez-vous?
No, I think you're just rattling off singles. Well, actually, this one was a single, but it's also the name of the album.
I don't know, what is it?
Super Trooper.
Oh, bloody Super Trooper.
Yeah, Super Trooper.
Super Trooper, Lights Are Gonna Find Me.
That's exactly that one, and but it was the best-selling album of 1980. So it's,
wow, I definitely wouldn't have got that. And yeah, okay.
1990. This upsets me a little bit. This one, 1990.
1990 upsets you, so it's someone you don't like. Yes. Is it someone I don't like either?
I think you probably like him.
Oh, so it must be at the kind of cross. Is it the? It must. You think I like them?
I'm not sure if you do or not. I'm not
1990.
sure.
Is it a rock band?
No, it's a guy, a singer. It's a solo singer.
Oh, 1990.
Coming from a band that
you didn't like.
That I didn't like. I think Liam Gallagher once famously said of him when someone said, "Oh, are Oasis any good?" And he said, "No, not really. You don't have to be good to sell singles. Just look at," and then he named this person.
Oh, I don't know who this is. Who is it?
Phil Collins.
Oh my God! Is it No Jacket Required?
It's not. It's But Seriously.
Oh no, not Phil Collins. No, I don't. Yeah. You thought that I might like him.
I thought you might like a bit of Genesis. I've got a feeling.
Well, I could tolerate very early Genesis, but although Duke is quite a nice album, I quite enjoy that. Yeah, I know you're not a Genesis fan, are you?
Well, no, you ought to send me a couple of tracks so I can listen to them. I'm sure there's something good.
Look, I wouldn't. This is difficult. Her best-selling album of the year.
It is quite tricky, isn't it? Yeah. Well, so run out of singles. Really.
I think I've got no points so far, pretty much. Oh, I did get ABBA, but with quite a healthy leg up.
Yeah. But the points is not the. It's not the.
No, it's the taking part that matters,
the fun
isn't it?
Of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So 1970. So the top division winners. So these are all first division. I can't remember when the Premiership came out. I think it's 93. The Premiership. So
92. I think it was
92.
Yeah.
So these are all
pre-Premier League.
Yeah. So first division winners. So who won it in the 69-70 season? So I've done the year 70. I mean it's the end of that season. So
okay.
1969, 1970.
Crikey, this is very difficult. It wasn't someone like Tottenham, was it?
No. I think last time they won it was in 61. I think Tottenham won.
Oh, good, because it's not long enough ago. 1970. Are they still in the top flight?
They are still in the top flight, yeah. But they're not anywhere near the team.
Oh, they're not anywhere near the top. I was just going to say Liverpool.
No.
1970. So
back in those days, they won quite a lot of stuff.
I don't know. Who is it?
Everton.
I wouldn't have thought of Everton.
No, I wouldn't have thought of Everton.
No.
So 1980, so the 79-80 season. Who won it that year?
Okay. Liverpool, Man United or Arsenal?
Yeah, Liverpool. You got it right.
Okay. That's good. I think that's the first one I've got right.
And then the 89-90 season.
Must have been Manchester United.
No, Liverpool again.
Oh.
So yeah.
So all Mersey.
They're all Mersey.
All Merseyside teams for those three.
For the year ending in 0.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. Let's wrap that one up.
That's tricky, that.
It is tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. You've chosen that shift to make me look stupid, haven't you?
Well, I might have to refine it again. But
it's not difficult to make me look stupid.
No, it's quite easy. But I might have to just adjust the quiz accordingly. But the last one was getting a bit stale. So,
I enjoyed that. I'm learning something.
Good. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm happy to receive any constructive criticism about my performance.
Okay, yeah, I can't just say, look, you were terrible at that, can we? Because I think you learned some points there. When people ask you in the future, you're going to be on top of this. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll be if it comes up in a quiz, like a quiz night, that the sort of thing that I never go to.
Never go to. No, too many people.
All right.
Good one.
Yeah, have a good Sunday.
So and you, thanks, mate.
Laters.
Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.